everybody. Welcome to a special edition of Talking Elite Fitness. I'm Sean Woodland with Tommy Marquez and Lauren Khalil. We have just wrapped up the 2024 Masters CrossFit Games from the Birmingham Jefferson Convention Complex in Birmingham, Alabama. And that exceeded my expectations. I had a ton of fun this past week. I'm tired, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
And my voice is hurting, but that was fun.
But
that
it's
was
good to be tired right now.
I said it to Chase on the air, and we'll get in a little bit more of this in a second, but I feel like that was sort of the reset that the community needed after what happened at the games.
Yeah, for sure. And a lot of people told us as much, like even people that weren't at the games but came to this, they said there was like almost this like sigh of relief moment, like, okay, there's a sense of normalcy here. There's something that we can all kind of get together, see some friends and see some people that we hadn't seen, and like, you know, just kind of like have our community in one place again to kind of, whether it's bounce ideas or you know share some emotions and then get back to something that we all love, genuinely love doing, and that, you know, that has healing powers in its own right.
For sure.
And having the crowd here being so close to the athletes, when we spoke to some of the athletes yesterday, even Jason Grubb, he was saying that, yeah, it was great to be in the Coliseum, but being an arm's reach away from his wife and his kids was something really special to have the community that close as you're doing what you love.
No doubt.
We want to thank our sponsor for this episode. That is Thirdzy. I know we all pack the Thirdzy. It's made a huge difference to me on the road here. I mean, thank you, Thirdzy, for helping me sleep. It's hard.
We would be in worse shape if we didn't have Thirdzy right now.
No question about it. And if you guys want to improve your sleep and recovery game, you can go to thirdzy.com, or you can scan the QR code that's right down there on your screen, and it'll take you to the website. You can use our code TEF. You'll save 20%. It doesn't have melatonin in it, so it's not habit forming. It has GABA, L-theanine, magnesium in it that helps calm your central nervous system, helps you get to sleep faster, and it helps you stay asleep longer. And like I said, had it not been for that stuff, I'd be in much worse shape than I am now. Like it saved me.
I think it gets undersold. It's got a good amount of collagen protein in it
does.
too,
Yeah.
like a non-insignificant amount. So it's like you get a little bit of that on top of the sleep aid benefits. So
that's why our skin is so nice.
Thirdzy.com. The code is TEF. You will save 20% if you use that code. So check them out. They're great people. They make a fantastic product, and they definitely saved our bacon here in Birmingham, Alabama. But let's get back to what we were talking about. I think there was some questions as to like whether or not like this would work, and what I mean by this, it's spinning the Masters games off into its separate thing.
Yeah.
And I was a little skeptical. I didn't know how it would work, and I think it is the right decision. I would have scheduled it differently. I've said this in the past. I would have liked to have seen like the Masters and the adaptives lead into, and the teens lead into the CrossFit Games, sort of be the build up to it.
Yep.
But I only think this gets bigger and gets better, and I think Joe and Bob, two guys who run this, the Legends Comp, and who took this over, deserve a ton of credit. I've never been fist bumped by so many athletes like during a broadcast.
Yeah.
I know I saw athletes go up to them and thank them, and it was cool, I think, for them to have center stage.
Yeah.
And I'm really excited to see where this goes now in the future.
Yeah, and that's the biggest thing to remember, right? Is like we're going to walk away with so many positives from this weekend and this experience, and so much of the feedback that we've gotten from the athletes, judging, event control, has been positive around the uniqueness of this event and the athletes getting to feel like they get to own the stage here. And that's just year one. Like it's easy to think that this is year 15 of the Masters CrossFit Games, but really it's kind of a reset to almost year one, just because we have a new event organizer for it and taking on that mantle for full force, and working out all the kinks in the relationships, whether it's communication with HQ, figuring out funding, sponsors, all of that is a different dance that you have to do. And like you said, I'm excited for year two and what's beyond, especially if they continue in this format and make improvements, which they always seem to do.
There's so many benefits because it's allowed us to tell more stories of really the athletes in this community that have paved the way for many of us. And they have L1s, 2s, 3s. More than 80 of them have own affiliates. And some of the messages, Dan Miller's family, he was in one of the older masters division. One of his family members reached out and was like, this is the first time they've seen their grandpa on TV and his name being called, and just hearing those little memories that people have been able to experience. I think this is such a good move for CrossFit in that storytelling and giving the community more opportunities to showcase what we do.
Yeah, and they had their representatives here.
Yeah.
And they all seemed, very happy. And we got to see Don Fall was here. Dave Castro was here.
Yep.
We talked briefly with Adrian Bosman, and they were all, super happy with what was going on. And look, I got to give CrossFit another win for the amount of content that they've been putting out on social media these past couple days.
Great.
They've had coverage of the teenagers divisions. They have coverage of the master stuff. Like, it was, overall, I think this weekend, and I didn't get a chance to really pay attention to anything going on in the teenage competition, but this is a win. Like, this is what this community and this sport needed to get back on track. And now we can start looking ahead to the adaptive competition that's taking the same place weekend, the same weekend as Wadapalooza.
Yep.
There's some good things. Like, I have a better feeling about the state of the sport and just the community in general after being here in person around everybody and seeing the results of the competition and the way it played out.
Yeah, no doubt. It's hard not to. Because on top of that, there were competitions that weren't necessarily part of the CrossFit Games event, so to speak. They had the Legends Classic going on simultaneously. They had an experimental division in the 70-plus division. And the passion from those athletes was palpable.
A lot.
And then you had the team competition. You had the 4-person teams for the Masters in multiple divisions and multiple age groups. And they were showing out in full force too. So there was a ton of enthusiasm here. And obviously, it's easy to overlook the Masters when you have the individual and the team competitions, right?
They are an afterthought at the games. When they're there, it's just a fact. They are. And we heard that from a lot of them. Like, we'd go into the Coliseum. Yeah, that was cool. But it was like 50 people. Yeah. And it wasn't a great atmosphere. Whereas here,
and it's echoey,
like
and
5
you don't
deep
see
on the
people.
barrier. Yeah, it was great.
Yeah.
Take last night, for example. Like, the front squat event, like, that was the only comp floor going at the time. And everybody was around and out and looking for it. And, like, so much so that even other athletes were, like, marveling at what their competitors were doing. It was
clapping in the background.
Yeah, it was a super cool event. And it was the Saturday night lifting event. And like that's what it feels like, it to a different extent, obviously, because it is different. It felt like that, what we feel from the individual side and how they build up momentum towards that kind of marquee type of lift. And it's cool to see that trickle down. And obviously, I thought the programming was solid. There's some things that they can improve on that they know behind the scenes. But overall, like you said, it's a big win.
Well, I think you start looking at the team competition, and I would not be surprised if that gets spun off next.
Yeah,
and I think this is proof positive that can work.
Yeah, and it has to be done intelligently. I think there's a ton of people pushing, the envelope forward for the team competition, whether it was, strength and depth or Wadapalooza with their format.
Yeah, like, that's going to be fun to watch. If that works, I think CrossFit should say, we are going to steal what you are doing.
Because CrossFit was absolutely here taking notes.
Yes, they were.
1,000%.
Well, let's go back and just talk about our top moments. We'll give 3.
Yeah, for sure.
So, in no particular order, when I start thinking
have an order.
I think start thinking about Woodard's front squat.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
What, 450?
450. So, like, a little bit of background. So it wasn't even I don't even think it was the top front squat in his division.
No,
it was, but it wasn't the top of the day.
There was I think it was Alexander Jolivet in the
455.
455 in the age group.
The older
one.
Yeah.
That was the heaviest one. That was.
But the way
ridiculous.
that Jimmy Woodard did it, it looked like he had 10 to 15 pounds more. And as I was walking back from the bathroom today, I saw his content creator, and I was like, what the heck is up with Jimmy? He should have put more weight on the bar. And he goes, Jimmy told me that was a 10-pound PR.
Oh, my God. Well, he opened it, I think, 385, and I'm calling it with Chase, and it just went. And I was like, okay, well, then that's going to.
And he made small jumps.
Easy.
I don't know. I'm jokingly call BS on that, because I don't know when Jimmy he might have tested his front squat back when, Nixon was in office, because I've never seen 445 move like that on a front squat. Like, even like the way he moved that front squat is like the videos you see of like the pro like the high level like gold medal weightlifters.
Yeah.
When they're just like testing a front squat, like warming up their clean, you're like, oh my gosh, his torso was upright. It's funny because Bob Jennings, who's one of the event organizers here, he has a massive front squat.
Yeah, 410.
He's 410. Yeah, he was a Masters Games athlete in his own right. And he's watching with a discerning eye, you know, because it's obviously something he's good at. And that the 445 goes up, and he looks at me and he goes, "Okay, that was," and said a few expletives, and you're like, yeah, no doubt.
All right, well, that's one of my first. So I'll just go through mine. Then I think it was day one when you had. We had athletes competing at opposite ends of the floor, and that was something new. We'd never kind of seen them go towards each other. And you had David Johnson and Jason Grubb looking at each other the entire time. It was the handstand walk event.
Yeah.
That was awesome to see that play out. And then the third one that I think about is on the chipper event, Andrea Nisler on the final 75 wall balls getting there. And she was behind Caroline Klutz at the time when she got to the final 75 wall balls. And Andrea Nisler went unbroken on 75. And Chase Ingram talked to Andrea about that. And Andrea said, I kept thinking about Taylor Williamson and that, how disappointed she would be in me if I didn't go unbroken. So use that as motivation and just ripped off 75 unbroken wall balls. Just think about that at that fatigue level after everything they did, that you have the option to go 75 unbroken. That's why she's a 35 to 39-year-old champ. So those are the top ones that stand out to me. And I think also just I think the environment here really, I was very pleasantly surprised by it. Yeah,
no doubt. That was certainly one of the highlights of the weekend. I'll go with mine. I got a couple. So the first event of Friday that we called? No.
Yep.
Was that it? The bike Echo bike.
That's actually what I'm looking up right now. We're gonna have the same one.
So the Echo bike workout, if you're unfamiliar, had 3 intervals: a 4-minute interval, 3-minute interval, 2-minute interval, and you had to do a buy-in of double unders and pull-ups, just a bar for some of the other divisions, and then you had to not chip away at a set amount of calories, and if you got it done, you were done. Only one athlete finished in the first round, and that was Patty McGill. And when her hand went up, when her judge's hand went up.
First interval.
First interval. At 65 plus, I think they had to do 45 calories.
Yep, it was 45 for the woman.
Still, she finished.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah, she finished
under 4 minutes.
Yeah, she finished. Let me find it. Yeah, she finished in 3:48, so she still had another 12 seconds to finish. And when her hand went up, and it was like 3:20. Everyone looks around and was like, that's got to be a mistake.
Yeah.
Like, what's going on?
I wasn't even looking for a hand to go up because it was the first interval of 3.
You're not ready for that.
And the realistic thing was like she finished like the pull-up double under portion. Most athletes, when they going unbroken, got to the bike around 110, and you really start getting it spinning around 115. So then like 2.5 minutes at 65 plus, you did 45 calories plus a couple of rollovers. Whatever. She probably finished with 47 or 46 when the rollover stopped and got back to the mat. And you're like, what just happened?
That's insane.
Yeah. Like
it was insane.
That's like, what was it? It was a games event in 2022 with the yoke carry on the field. Remember, it was like the interval thing where Tia just like broke it.
Just took it the whole way.
And we were told, I remember being in the broadcast, back in the broadcast compound when we talked to the demo team. I think it was Allison Scudds who's like, oh yeah, no, there's no one's going to finish like in this first round. And she
basically did. Yeah. There you go, Patty McGill compared to Tia Claire.
Congratulations.
That is a heck of a comparison.
Good work. What else you got?
That one's up there.
Dex Hopkins snatch.
That was cool.
It's not on the broadcast.
He could,
but so if you snatch with both all your fingertips forward, he did a reverse because of a wrist injury. Then on the clean event, he's cleaning.
And then releasing his arm,
Yep, and same with the front squat event. So he was able to, finish the weekend before the cuts, doing what he could.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I think we just spoke with him, and I was kind of keeping a spot in my top moments just in case this happened. We spoke with Grubb right before that finale, and it was a lot closer of a race than he wanted. He came into the weekend with a really bad calf injury, and he was like, I'm going to put on a show on this last one. And he went unbroken the entire round. Yep. He went, 8, 12, 16 reps unbroken. and he was going toe-to-toe with an athlete who was just over to his left, and that athlete was actually ahead of him most of the round, and he dropped, and you could just see like the championship mindset switch.
Well,
right?
and he did. That's the thing, because Grubb was not racing that particular individual.
No.
It was not a factor. The two guys that he had to worry about were on the other end of the floor.
Mm-hmm.
He was well ahead of them.
So
he did not need to do that, and he still did.
And he did it anyways. Yeah. And that's the, you know, that's Tiger Woods coming down the 18th fairway, and you know he needs a birdie, but he makes eagle on a par 5, or you know it's MJ just putting that extra dagger in, you know, or getting a defensive stop after the, you know, jump shot dagger he just gave you. And it was really cool to see in person, especially because for him, this is the closest I think he's been pushed really in his 4 titles.
Yeah.
And
now 5.
Now it's 5.
First man to get 5 in a row.
Exactly. First athlete to do 5 in a row, and on the Masters side. So it's an impressive performance, and it came with a clutch performance on the back. So that's definitely another one. I'm trying to think of I don't know. Is there another one that stands out to you?
I think just overall Will Morad, how impressive he is. And I went up to him yesterday and I was like, dude, you're like fine wine. You just keep getting better with age. And I wonder if, I think Chase was alluding to this, the way that they're training now and hitting things with intensity, bringing down the volume. So every training session matters that much more. And I don't think we saw one hole or weakness in any event that he took on this weekend.
Yeah, I'm gonna piggyback off of that, and I don't think it can be overstated enough the journey that Will Moore has been on in his career. I said this on the broadcast. It's worth repeating. If you probably heard it by now if you listen to us regularly, but 2014 makes the games as a rookie, finishes 14th. Looks like he has an upward trajectory because he's coming out of that Central East Regional. And then suddenly it all comes crashing down. The next year he misses out, and he's misdiagnosed with an autoimmune disorder. He's told that he can never compete again in this sport. He switches over to the corporate world. A few years in, he's miserable, starts to feel a little bit better, gets some stuff sorted out, goes back to the doctor. The misdiagnosis is recognized, and suddenly he's back competing. 2019 is the first year that he's able to compete. It took him like 5 sanctional events to be able to qualify. I was on the road with him in Iceland, in Brazil, in all the different places, and he finally got through. And what does he do? In that year of wild cuts, he makes it through and makes the top 10 at the games. Unfortunately, pops his hammy, has a little bit of an issue there. 2 years later, 2021, at like basically leading up to the games, his wife is diagnosed with breast cancer. And I mean, at the age of 30, right? Like how does that even happen, you know?
And he almost didn't qualify that year. It came down to like 3 points at semifinals
against James Sprague.
Yeah,
that 76-point deficit he made up.
Oh my God, that was unbelievable.
And he does it by winning that event. And I mean, it was just a huge rally for him. And then, so for all that to come back, and then he comes out here and he shows out in a huge way. You know, he's wearing Lazar's jersey on the floor for that final event. His wife's right there, front and center, cheering on him on. And you know, it's like, you know, at 2021, you don't know if you're ever going to get that opportunity again. And a few years later, he's a CrossFit Games champion, and he goes out dueling Henry Matthews for that last event. It was,
They're really taking down the rig right now.
Guys doing the work with the old impact driver.
Yeah, the old impact driver. That's just poetic.
Yeah, it is. That's what happens when you do.
When you do it around setup, yeah. So, but all that to say, just like there's few guys that are more deserving than that, you know. And and Will's just such a good dude through and through. And yeah, that's awesome. And
this is the thing too. I think for me, for people who don't watch, who maybe not watch the Masters competition or didn't have an interest in it, like, there were some genuinely exciting moments out there and great races and, you know, fun events to watch. I really, really enjoyed this experience. And I haven't I think this is like the 3rd time I've done a Masters event, because I've done Legends twice. And then this is the first time I've done the Masters CrossFit Games.
Yep.
And it was a lot of fun. And I really got invested in it. And so if you're someone who wants to watch competitive CrossFit and watch great stories and good people, check it out, because it was fun. Like, I really thought this over-delivered.
Well, and I think that's why this format is such a win for the sport as a whole, because when you have this combined with the elite individuals and the team individuals, it just gets lost in the shuffle. But now when people are looking for a weekend to continue watching fun races and CrossFit, this is just another opportunity to do so. And then you learn about the races, you learn about the athlete stories, and it just creates more buy-in having their own event.
And this thank you to anyone who watched at home, because the streams for these legends
did great.
did better than they ever have in the past. So you know, there's a lot can be done when suddenly you're moved from like removed from the shadow of someone else. Yeah. And you know, we've been fortunate in the past to be able to tell master stories along the way throughout the season, but having this kind of crown jewel event that you can build around from the future, you know, certainly has a lot of athletes here pumped.
Oh, I have to give a shout out to Justin LaSala.
Yes.
Who won his first CrossFit Games.
Yeah.
He's been so close in the past. And final event, he goes out there and he outduels
Sean Ramirez and who's the let me find it. I got you.
It's funny because
Jamie McGarva.
Yeah. And it was fantastic to see him and the way he celebrated, just kind of the relief he showed when he realized he had done it by just kind of collapsing onto the competition floor was fantastic. So, yeah, overall win, I think, no doubt, a lot of fun, and I think a good way. Obviously, there's still the cloud of everything that happened at the games hanging over the community. There's still many things that need to be sorted out that we will be talking about in the coming weeks, and continuing to reach out to people to come on to discuss that situation. But for now, this was just a nice little reset to kind of get us just back on track. And I appreciate Bob having us here and the community for showing up. Like this was a lot of fun. So I think we can for sure build off of this.
Absolutely. And real quick, because the award ceremony is about to happen behind us, just a quick shout out. Will Morad in the 35 to 39, Jonathan Edel in the 40 to 44. We got Jason Grubb 5 times in the 45 to 49. You have Justin LaSala, as we just mentioned, getting the win in the 50 to 54. In 55 to 59, John Kim, who we got to chop it up with on Instagram.
Great dude.
He brings it home and gets the win as well. Joe Ames, multi-year games champion in 60 to 64. John George, that was an excellent race. He was only 3 points separated from Freddie Cherry going into the final event. He gets it done. 35 to 39. You got Andrea Nisler, dominant performance. Carly Newlands wins by almost.
She clinched. She had to clinch. She atumied that thing. She went into the final event, had like a more than 100-point lead. It was
dang.
She beats Andrea Pinheiro, who qualified as an individual this year, and Carleen Matthews, a former multi-year individual games athlete. At 45 to 49, Deanna Posey came up huge in that last event, going toe-to-toe with Kelly Friel and Val Vobrel. Janet Black, that was an awesome race with Jen Dieter, too, because they were basically separated by one spot, and Janet got the win on that last event as well. And then Joyanne Cooper wins for the 55 to 59. That was a dominant. She had it basically clinched in that last one. Lori Mashiznik, 11 appearances at the games.
It's Mashiznik. I'll never forget that.
Yep. Oh, one of the favorite moments of Pat Sherwood getting put in his place. And then Patty McGill wins for the 65 plus. So congrats on those wins. All the attention and spotlight that they got this.
And congratulate Patriot this week. Bronislaw Alenkwitz managed to get himself onto the podium.
Oh, yeah.
In third place. There was some doubt about that when we left the broadcast, but it turns out that, he made it. So Braun is a podium finisher. So shout out to Braun and Justin Kotler and Underdog Athletics. So
yeah, man.
That was fantastic. Well, okay, here's what we have coming up. We have Adaptive. They have still to go. That's the same weekend as Wadapalooza. That's September 20th.
The weekend of the 21st.
Weekend of the 21st. Then we'll have
things are happening right now as well,
because we're recording this on Sunday. So the teenage divisions are going on, and that, like I said, the content that I've seen on social media from that looks really good. And I'm really anxious. I want to go back and watch how that all turned out, because I know Joel Godet, who's Total Pro, was calling that, so I'm sure it's gonna be fantastic. So I definitely want to watch that. But I love this. I think if we can get these age groups and adaptives leading into the games and build that momentum, I think you're onto something.
Yep, for sure. And shout out Nick Aranda in the 40 to 44. We talked about this a little bit behind the scenes. I think it's been on social media. His daughter is competing in Michigan this weekend.
Oh, cool.
So he's been going back and forth, and they've been doing some FaceTiming. Notes. And I know there's been a team, filming behind the scenes. that I got to catch him watching his daughter's event this morning.
Oh, that's great.
Oh,
So
that's awesome.
you got the whole family throwing
Full
down
circle.
this weekend. Yeah,
Awesome.
pretty awesome.
Okay. Anything else we need to cover?
I don't know. What was your favorite test from this weekend?
Favorite one.
Oh.
I really liked that interval one.
Yeah, that was mine
That
too.
was cool, and I liked that last one.
Yeah.
I thought that was
Yeah.
a great way to finish it. And that event kind of went through some tweaks, and I think the way they ended it with the hey, there's no rule, just do it. You know, we don't have to switch arms or anything like that.
Yep.
Letting the athletes kind of choose. I thought that was fun, and it provided some really good races. Yeah, I think I like that interval one a lot. That was cool to watch people just go full send on the bike.
Yeah, I like the interval one too. I think begrudgingly that's one I want to test at home.
Oh.
Me too.
Maybe make it regular pull-ups instead of chest to bar. You know, because
Yeah.
you know.
Oh yeah, that'd be a problem.
Big boy issues, but yeah, that one and the event 8, the 8 rounds of the bar facing burpees, toes to
Yeah,
bar.
I didn't get to
Oh,
watch
yeah.
much of that one because
Yeah.
I think we were doing the chipper.
standard, yeah.
We were doing the standard, and then we had to go do the
Yep.
Yeah, that one was super cool because it was a master class for the best athletes in pacing and riding that line just enough where you're like, that last clean looked a little iffy, like how are you going to respond? And then Will Morad went sub 6 on that, and he's the only athlete even in that time frame. It was silly.
That's great.
I think at one point, Paul Tremblay looked over and saw that Will was done. It was just like,
Whatever, Will.
yep.
All right. That's going to do it for us for today. We're going to have another episode later this week, and we're going to get back to the sort of the more news world of things. We're still working on trying to dig up some guests who can talk more about the big issues that are going on in the community. But for now, I think we're just going to enjoy this experience, enjoy being here, and just celebrate this win, because this is a big win for CrossFit. It was a big win for the community, and it was a huge win for the Masters athletes who got to take center stage.
Yeah.
Once again, big thanks to our sponsor, Thursday. Scan that QR code or head to Thursday.com. Use that code TEF to save 20%. Like, it is I got kind of scared. I thought I didn't bring enough.
Oh, no.
For tonight. And then I was like
Weird.
tearing my backpack apart because sometimes I'll like stash one in an emergency. And I was like, oh, it's still there.
Well,
So now I have enough. So
if you don't got that, you also have Texas de Brazil that you're going to go
that's
to.
gonna-
and
Don't get
Oh,
them- don't get
this
them-
is still a hard
Gonna get
subject to talk
the
about.
Yeah.
meat sweats. Hey, next time you guys will
next
make
time.
it. So yeah, I'm flying out tomorrow morning. You guys got a couple hours.
And it doesn't open till 4.
Yeah.
We're
All right.
sad.
That's going to do it. As Tommy said, thanks to everybody who watched the broadcast and who attended. This was a fantastic event. A lot of fun. I had an absolute blast. This was a lot more fun than I thought it was going to be. And I absolutely needed this as well.
No doubt.
Thanks to Bob and Joe for putting on the event and for having us out.
Oh, and for one of the volunteers I got to meet this weekend, Roll Tide.
Okay, there you go.
I told him I'd do that in our next one. So.
Nice.
And Alabama covered yesterday.
Yes,
so
they do.
Roll Tide.
That's the most important thing. Tommy made money.
Obviously.
All right, guys. For Lauren and Tommy, I'm Sean. Take care of each other. Be better. And we'll talk to you guys.